There is a particular kind of pain that almost everyone carries. Not the pain of losing money, not the pain of failure, but the pain of losing someone. Someone you trusted, someone you loved, someone you imagined would always be part of your life. One day they were there, the next they were gone. No explanation ever feels enough. No conversation seems to heal it. And the heart keeps asking the same question. Why, Allah? Why did you allow this? Why did you let someone I cared about walk away? Why did you not answer the dua I made for us? For many people, this is where faith becomes difficult. Not because they stop believing in Allah, but because they cannot understand His wisdom. We believe Allah is the most merciful. Then why does mercy sometimes arrive wearing the face of loss? Why does love sometimes end? Why do friendships disappear? Why do families break apart? Why do people we prayed for become memories instead? Perhaps because we often assume that whatever makes us happy today must also be good for us tomorrow. But Allah never asked us to trust our own sight. He asked us to trust His knowledge. The Qur'an says, "Perhaps you dislike something while it is good for you, and perhaps you love something while it is bad for you. Allah knows, while you do not know." Think about that. The verse does not say you will immediately understand. It simply reminds you that there is knowledge you do not possess. We see one chapter. Allah sees the entire book. Sometimes we become so attached to a person that we begin measuring our future through them. We imagine life with them. We build expectations around them. Without realizing it, our hearts slowly begin leaning on creation more than the Creator. Then something happens. The relationship changes. The phone becomes silent. The messages stop. The door closes. And suddenly, everything feels like it is falling apart. But is everything truly falling apart? Or is Allah removing something before it removes you? That is a frightening question, because sometimes what hurts us most is exactly what we were refusing to let go of. Not every person who enters your life is meant to remain there. Some people are blessings, some are lessons, some are tests, and only Allah knows which one they truly were. This does not mean every separation is a reward, nor does it mean every loss is a punishment. Islam does not teach us to make those claims. There are losses that raise a believer in rank. There are losses that awaken a sleeping heart. There are losses that protect a person from dangers they never see. And there are losses whose wisdom remains hidden until the day we meet Allah. Faith is not knowing why every door closed. Faith is believing that the one who closed it is wiser than the one standing before it. The Prophet ﷺ buried children. He lost his beloved wife. He watched companions leave this world. Even the most beloved servant of Allah experienced separation. So being tested by loss is not evidence that Allah has abandoned you. Sometimes it is evidence that you are walking a road the righteous walked before you. Sometimes we spend years asking Allah to keep someone in our lives. We make dua, we hope, we wait. We imagine a future that includes them. And when that future disappears, it feels as though Allah remains silent. But silence is not always absence. Sometimes it's protection. There are doors that only seem beautiful because we cannot see what stands behind them. Allah can. We cannot. That is why trust is one of the hardest forms of worship. It's easy to trust Allah while life is comfortable. It's much harder to trust Him when your heart is broken and you still believe that Allah is writing something better, even if you cannot imagine what it is. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that Allah knows while we do not because He wants to keep us confused, but because we were never created to carry the knowledge that belongs only to Him. Imagine if every hardship in your life came with an explanation. Every unanswered dua, every goodbye, every closed door, every delay. Would trust still exist? Or would you simply be following a plan you already understood? Faith begins where certainty ends. That is why Allah does not reveal tomorrow. He asks you to walk towards it, holding His promise instead of your own predictions. Sometimes the person you are crying over today would have led you away from Allah tomorrow. You don't know that. I don't know that. Only Allah knows. Sometimes the opportunity you desperately wanted would have destroyed your character. Sometimes the friendship you fought to keep would have slowly weakened your faith. Sometimes the relationship you believed would complete you would have emptied your heart instead. We rarely ask that question.
We often ask, why did Allah take this away? But we almost never ask, what did Allah protect me from? Perhaps because protection often doesn't feel like protection. It feels like loss. The child who cries when a sharp knife is taken away believes something precious was stolen. The parent knows it was an act of mercy. How often are we like that child? We hold tightly to what only Allah can truly evaluate. And when He removes it, our first thought is pain, not wisdom. That doesn't make us weak. It makes us human. Even the prophets, peace be upon them, felt grief. When the sons of Yaqub were separated from him, he cried until his eyesight was affected. His grief was real. His tears were real. But notice something beautiful. His hope never left Allah. He said, I only complain of my suffering and my grief to Allah. He did not deny his pain. He directed it to the one who could heal it. There's a difference. Islam never asks you to pretend separation doesn't hurt. It asks you not to let pain become disbelief. You can cry without losing trust. You can grieve without accusing Allah. You can miss someone while still believing that whatever Allah chooses is better than whatever you would have chosen for yourself. And perhaps that is one of the most difficult lessons a believer will ever learn.
There's another mistake we make without realizing it. We begin believing that peace depends on a particular person. If they stay, I'll be okay. If they come back, I'll finally have peace. If this relationship survives, everything else will make sense. Slowly, without intending to, we ask from creation what only the Creator can truly give. No human being was created to carry the weight of being your source of peace. People change. People become distant. People become weak. People leave this world. If your heart is tied completely to them, then every change feels like the end of your own world. Perhaps this is why Allah sometimes loosens our grip before that attachment becomes an idol of the heart. Not an idol made of stone, but an idol of dependence. A dependence that quietly whispers, I cannot live without this person. Yet every believer knows there is only one without whom we truly cannot live. Allah. Sometimes Allah does not remove a person because He wants to punish you. Sometimes He removes them because He refuses to let your heart settle anywhere except with Him. That lesson hurts, but many people discover that the period that brought them closest to Allah was also the period when they lost someone they loved. Not because loss itself is beautiful, but because it stripped away the illusions they had built. It reminded them that every created thing is temporary.
Look at the story of Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him. He was not simply separated from his father, He was thrown into a well by his own brothers. Imagine standing at the bottom of that darkness. No explanation, no rescue in sight, no idea that one day the well would lead to a palace. If Yusuf had judged Allah's plan from inside the well, it would have looked like abandonment. But it was never abandonment. It was preparation. The well was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of it. How many of us are judging our lives from inside the well? How many of us believe that because today hurts, tomorrow cannot possibly hold mercy? We want Allah to explain every chapter before we are willing to trust Him. But that has never been the way of faith. Sometimes, years pass before you understand why someone had to leave. Sometimes, you never understand in this life. And that is also part of trusting Allah. Not every question receives an answer in dunya. This does not mean every person who left was bad for you. Nor does it mean you should stop loving people. Islam never teaches emotional emptiness. The Prophet, peace be upon him, loved deeply. He grieved deeply. He wept. He missed those who passed away. Love is not the problem. Attachment without remembering Allah is. Love people. Honor them. Pray for them. Be grateful for them. But never build your entire future upon someone whose own future is in the hands of Allah. Maybe the person who walked away will never come back. Maybe they will. You do not know. And perhaps you are not supposed to know, because if your heart can only find peace after receiving the answer you want, then it has not yet learned surrender. Real peace is stranger than that. It says, Ya Allah, I do not understand this. It hurts. I miss them. I wish things had been different. But I trust you more than I trust my own understanding. That is not weakness. That is one of the highest forms of worship. One day, you may look back and realize the prayer Allah did not answer protected the prayers you had not even made yet. The door He closed made room for another you never expected. The person who left created space for your heart to know Allah more than it ever had before. Or perhaps the wisdom will remain hidden until the day when every secret becomes clear. Either way, Allah loses nothing by asking you to trust Him. You lose everything if you stop trusting Him. So if someone has left your life, do not rush to call it a curse. Do not rush to call it a blessing either. Call it what the believer has always called the unknown. A test. A trust. A chapter's ending belongs to Allah. Cry if you need to cry. Make dua. Ask Allah to return what is good for you. Ask Him to remove what is harmful for you. And then leave the outcome with the one who sees what no eye can see, because one day, whether in this life or the next, you will discover that Allah never made a mistake with your story, not once. And perhaps the goodbye that shattered your heart was also the goodbye that quietly saved your soul.